the interesting thing about building teams in an existing company is that you don't have to convince your employees that it can be done, right? When you're doing something revolutionary and you're convinced that, yeah, we're moving forward, but then they have never heard of it, right?
Yeah.
They're going to go and say, oh, is there a YouTube tutorial for it? Or is there some documentation? Or they're like, oh, we're doing all this stuff. You're the one. Yeah, you're the one who'll have to do that YouTube tutorial. You're the one who has to write literally the book of it, right? And that's a very different ball game, right?
Cool.
You really have to almost become 100 times more charismatic and keep people motivated that it can be done. Don't worry, we're gonna get it done. So I think that's something that I never expected.
Welcome to your new podcast, Optimum Ideation, with the host and Bridges. Idea interviews. The best of human ideation. Everyone has a superpower. But times are hot, many are in the darkness of their own mind, in need of a helping hand. Helping others to become whole.
Our sponsoring brands.
Third-party people, NFT Fashion, TGC Fashion, MarkPoint.
Enjoy the show with today's guest,
Adnan Yunus. All right, welcome everybody. I'm really excited. We got a guest that I've been trying to get pegged down here for a while, and I've been really excited to interview. He's got some really awesome tech that I think is going to be really helpful to a lot of people like myself who are interested in creating video games, and I can't wait for him to talk a little bit more about it. But this is Opus AI. And our guest today is the leader of the group, and it's Mr. Adnan Yunus. And we're just going to get right into the questions today. And what is your story, your resume, and how did you get to here?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Great to be here. My story is, I guess, starts a long time ago. In Pakistan, that's where I'm originally from, and it starts with in my teenage or even before that. My mom was a novelist. She used to write romantic novels when I was growing up, and that got me early into the habit of reading a lot of books, right? She used to have a library. I used to read a lot, and now further down the line, my father was an engineer, right? So I chose the line. I went into engineering, started working with an offshoot of Simmons, and at that point I was like, okay, I chose this path. Like, and I still love reading books and all that. So work with a whole bunch of different big corporates. Some of the example would be work with Lockheed Martin, with NASA, later with Ericsson, and moved to Canada, and quite a few different other small startups that were working on category-defining products, right? So one of the things is that I got bored, and go from one place to the other. Anyway, fast forward to 2019, I'm working with this startup, which is doing something in semiconductor, right? They're trying to cut down the time and cost it takes to make chips, right? And I think they're going to become super relevant now that we have a GPU shortage and all that. But in 2019, I was like, okay, what's next for me, right? We've done quite a bit of work, and that's where kind of this, it came back to me that, storytelling is that I always loved. But one thing that has always, kind of bugged me is the stories that we're seeing in form of games, in form of movies, are not as diverse as, I would say, varying as I see in books, right? So the books, like, writers are great. They write a lot of, clever plots, but when you look at let's say games, we see, I don't know, FIFA 15 and then FIFA 16 and then FIFA 17. It's like kind of the same. Yeah, the visual fidelity is getting better, but at the same time, not much is changing.
Yeah.
And same thing, like Call of Duty and Call of Duty and Call of Duty, and I'm a big believer in storytelling, right? So at that point, I was like, okay, we need to do something about this because it's been a while, and the game industry and the movie industry, they're not moving in the direction that I like them to move.
Right.
And that there we started with this crazy idea, and that's 2019 again, right? It's not 2023, and
Yeah.
nobody's thinking about generative AI. It's not even a thing.
You're right.
And we're like, okay, what if we can take writing, like a story, a book, and convert it directly into a game, right? At that point, it was crazy, and we did some initial work, but we were called, all sort of things, like from crazy to like that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in 20 years, and nobody's done it and all that. Anyway, fast forward, like and 2022, and everybody's now suddenly like, oh, something's going to happen, like AI is going to change something, right? And we're like, oh, we already done it, right? So we since then we did quite a bit of work. So that's the short and the long end of the story.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. I was so intrigued on when I saw a few videos about what you're doing, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, and he already started before all this, they're rolling stuff out now, but man, still what you're doing is so amazing to me. What layers did you have to reveal to become who you are now?
What layers? Can you reword the question?
Yeah. So to do what you're doing now, it takes a whole lot of different skill sets and all these different talents. What did you have to reveal about yourself to become who you are now?
Quite a lot of things, right? I mean, like, if you rewind back where we started, and you have different ideas, or all the things that you'll have to do. Like, I've been in the industry for quite a bit, in software, hardware, like all sort of different layers, technically, right? And work with very, very large led teams, build teams. But then you get into something that you think a lot about, engineering wise, of course, like already did. But then there are a lot of other things that we had to do, right? From, I don't know, like the interesting thing about building teams in an existing company is that you don't have to convince your employees that it can be done, right? When you're doing something revolutionary and you're convinced that we're moving forward, but then they have never heard of it, right?
Yeah,
they're gonna go and say, oh, is there a YouTube tutorial for it, or is there like some documentation? Or they're like, oh, we're doing all this stuff. You're the one. Yeah, you're the one who'll have to do that YouTube tutorial, and you're the one who has to write literally the book of it, right? And that's a very different ball game, right?
Cool.
You really have to almost become 100 times more charismatic and keep people motivated that it can be done. Don't worry, we're gonna get it done. So I think that's something that I never expected. So becoming kind of somebody who's gonna have to do a lot of motivational speech to people. So that's one thing that were unexpected.
Very cool.
And,
very cool. So what with all that, we're always trying to improve ourselves. What's the next layer for you to remove? What's the next thing that you see might be holding you back that you need to get over?
What's the next layer? I think for me, like it is, or like for us, it's becoming more and more paramount, more important that putting ourselves in front of people, right? As a tech company, like most of myself and pretty much everyone, like we have a tech DNA, right? And we like to sit in the corner and like do our thing. But then when you're building something that impacts so many people, then you have to go out. And so I'm still working on it. I think it's still something that can that needs more work.
Yeah.
So work in progress.
Yeah. I've always been introvert, and so all this that I'm doing now, it's kind of been like that last layer for me to just shave it off. Let's go. We got to meet more people. We got to do more business.
Totally,
And
totally.
camera and in front of everybody.
Oh yeah, that's a totally a new thing, right? But you have to do what you have to do, right? It's
Yeah.
like when you're convinced that it has to be done, because that's the thing that you're holding you back. You're like, okay, whatever, like we're gonna go
Yeah.
and do it.
Exactly. So what trials and tribulations have you been through on this journey here? Probably all sorts of things.
Yeah, a lot of different things, right? And it's also like it changes you as a person. So most of the things that I think the biggest shock is um, dealing with, I guess, different actors in the industry, and um, then peeling those layers of um, onions, right? And figuring out, okay, this is how the industry actually works, right? I thought like that's how that's what these people are looking for, but then you peel a layer and then you peel a layer and you realize, oh no, this is very different. So I think that's a lot of things that we go through, but it also and that has been the most challenging part as well, especially getting to where we are. But it's been good. I think everything that looking back, no regrets.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta do what we gotta do and have no regrets at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I imagine this is probably when you're younger, but when did you become passionate about your focus? And that's about Opus AI.
So I got into what I got into not because it was a hard thing, right? So at that point, like that's like early inception of internet, right? So 97 or so long time ago, very very long time ago. And at that point, being a going into that field is like being called a nerd, right? That you're a weirdo, right? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing something like so didn't go there because there was a lot of money there, and especially where I'm from, like money was not really there, right? Money was elsewhere. So the reason I got into computers, I got into like this entire thing is because I believed at that point that it's going to change the societal structure of the human race, right? And at that point, it was not it was not a thing. Nobody, like few people were there, but most of the people were like, oh, it's going to do something, right? I mean, so I believe that technology can change the societal structure, and still we haven't seen like we're just scratching the surface. It's going to change a lot more before we're done. And that's why we started with when it comes to Opus, it's the same thing. I think the changes that I saw happening with technology, I felt that it's not enough. Like these are still moving too slow, right? We're almost like I would say this. I would say, so I mean, like we think that everything is like almost like when you are growing up, you take everything for granted. Everything is have been there. It's always been there. But the truth is that in the longer scheme of things, our own entire civilization is kind of like this blimp in the it's not that long, and anything can happen, right? And it has happened in the past, and it may happen. Like a bigger thing can happen, and the sooner we learn to master our environment, the more chance we have for a long-term survival, for tackling a lot of big challenges that we're facing. And I felt that we're not moving fast enough. So Opus is my attempt to speed it up, like get it where us humans were like the master of our environment. We're not like at the mercy of weather, at the mercy of environment, or the mercy of climate change or whatever else, right? And we're figuring out that okay, what's next for us, rather than just dealing with floods and all that. So yeah.
Wow, man, it's powerful. Now, when you first started on this company, what is something in your journey that was like more challenging than you had expected? And maybe you kind of touched on this a little bit, but
And talking to people.
yeah,
That
we're
was the
dealing
most
with a lot of
challenging.
different people, different egos, and
Not only like
mindsets.
yeah, I'm a more like an like you, I'm an introvert, right? So I'm not a people person at all in any
Yeah.
way, right? And you think that I'll hire a bunch of people who are going to deal with other people, but the truth is that when you're building something monumental, you're the one who has to be in the front, right? Like a general, like you're the one who's leading the charge,
Yeah.
and that requires a lot of changes. So I think like I'm still not as where I want to be, but that was the biggest thing that I had to change about myself.
Yeah, I just kind of read something the other day and it was talking about how, maybe you're like a hustler. I'm like a hustler. I like to go get that thing done and I'll sit there and I'll do it until it's done. But whenever you become like, let's say like a CEO of a company, you have to be able to like say, hey, this is your job. And, here's you doing that, and pull yourself out of that hustler set, because now you're directing people. And it takes time to do that. And, as you're building a company, it's just
Totally
you
different
got to
ball
shift
game.
your mind that whole other way, and it's changing your brain almost to do this.
Oh yeah, it's rewiring your brain. Yeah, totally. Like it's not about you as much as about the team. Then
When throughout our lives, I don't feel like anybody that's doing something extraordinary has not been through some low points. So who are you at your lowest points and who are you at your best?
who am I? Like I mean, it's a thing that goes on, right? Because the problem, I guess, like I'll tackle it from a day to day. So when you're almost like trailblazing, you're kind of like writing the playbook, then you're gonna doubt yourself, and it happens from time to time, right?
Yeah.
And for me, and it has like I've gotten much better at it than it used to be. So what helps is that looking back and seeing all the distance that you have already covered, right? And we have crossed covered a lot of distance, like since we started, insane amount of distance. So that now it's like less and less, because we see almost like a global belief, like people look at it and they're like, oh my god, so that's like kind of validates you, and it gives you that okay, you're not just doing your thing. It's like there are people who are passionate about what you're doing. So that's how I pull myself out. Still happens, but not as often, right? So
yeah man. And building my companies, I've been through a lot, and I just feel like I think we can all relate to each other. I love talking to other founders because
totally
it's a whole different brain than everyone else has.
Totally, yeah.
What's the best piece of advice for an audience that truly wants to better themselves or others in this life?
Find a purpose, right? I would say, so the first thing, if you're a young person, the first thing you want to do is find an actual purpose, right? Don't do things just because everybody else is doing, or it's easy, or it's convenient thing, first of all, and second, I would say don't do things that you don't care about just because you think you're going to make some money, and then go and do the thing that you actually want to do. That never happens. It never happens for anyone, right? A lot of people think that, oh, I want to build rockets, but then first I'm going to go and make a SaaS company and then go build rockets. Not going to happen, because the journey defines who you are, which basically means that if you start doing something easy, then you don't get the skill set, the tenacity that you would need to do the real thing that you'll have to do, right? So that's a lot of misconception that, especially when you're young, you have that, oh, I'm just going to do something easy because then I'll have some money and do. But the problem is that then you become that person, right?
Yeah.
You're not. So I would say that that's the most crucial advice from my side, at least.
Very good. Very good. I can agree with you there. Let's say, if you could interview 3 people in this world, who would you interview?
Who's still alive?
It could be somebody that passed away. I mean,
Yeah, I would like to talk to a lot of quite a few people who are not with us anymore.
yeah.
So one of the person that I would like to interview is Nikola Tesla. That's one of the person that I really admire, right? Really understand how he thought about things.
Yeah.
Who else? Definitely is gonna be somewhere from American founding fathers. I would like to maybe if I can interview them, because sometime I go and I think about what they were thinking when they started and how they tackled all the problems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe Benjamin Franklin or one of the founding father I would like to really interview.
Yeah, how they come up with this declaration,
Exactly. Because it has gotten America very, very far, in the world, just because of all the things that they thought when way in the past, right? So I think that's one thing that I would be very, very interested in, and maybe in today, who I would like to interview. There are a lot of interesting personalities, right? Elon Musk, definitely, will be an interesting conversation with him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you see what he's doing with Twitter right now. It seems like he's maybe building like a WeChat or something.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting, interesting moves by him. But yeah.
If you ever write a book or another book, what would it be about?
What would it be about? I like writing, in-depth, stories. Maybe something that is my own journey. Would like to, definitely share that. Yeah, probably that's gonna be it if it's nonfiction, right? Other than I like writing fiction, so
okay.
I don't know whether I'm that good at it, but
it's okay. Yeah.
if I get some time in the future, then maybe I'll write some sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
A lot of topics that I want to cover that I don't see covered yet.
Cool. Well, I'm thinking up some of that stuff too. Maybe we'll touch base on it one day.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. People get to where they want to go because they know where they want to go. Where do you ultimately want to go?
Where do I ultimately want to go? A complicated question, right? So for me, it's about knowing, and I know it's an abstract answer, but let's see. There is an ultimate truth somewhere, right?
Sure.
As human, we don't know that truth. We know bits and pieces of that truth, right? In terms of scientific theories, in terms of practical knowledge, in terms of, let's say, a lot of technology that we have built up. So for me, ultimately, I don't know whether it's going to be possible or not to get to that as close as possible to that ultimate truth, right? That defines everything in the universe, kind of like that universal theory. So, and I think in order to get there, we will have to do a lot. We'll have to move a lot faster than we are. I mean, again, it goes back to the same thing. I feel that we're not moving fast enough towards that truth, because that's gonna reduce a lot of misery that we see around ourselves, right? So yeah.
Very good. Wow. Okay, we're kind of wrapping up here. Do you have a networking event, a product, service, invention that we can help you promote to the audience?
Um, Opus, like, I mean, that's the product that, and for me, it's like, I think people need to be excited about what we're doing, because the reason why we're doing it, right? Not just because it's gonna help that some small niche, but more like we feel, and I feel that it's gonna be a monumental change in life of everyone, and hopefully directly, not indirectly, right? Where I want to see our aunts, our uncles, our, like, grandmas, all sort of people actually directly using it to tell stories about their lives, about their friends, their relatives, and everything
Wow.
that they can imagine, right? So yeah.
Wow. What is the best way for the audience to support you and get in contact?
Go to our website, opus.ai, it's opus.ai. Sign up for our wait list. Hopefully, sign up. Another ways, follow us on Twitter. So, and follow the company, like Opus AI Inc. on Twitter. I think that's the best way, because the more people follow us, the more other people get to know about us. Because at this point, it's simply about uh, I would say, more of the people getting excited about what we're doing. And how it's going to happen is that the early believers go and spread the word. So yeah, spread the word. Share our videos, follow, sign up for the wait list, etc. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Man, it's been a joy spending this time with you. And if you're up for it, I think we should do a second interview and maybe try and get into some demo or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be awesome. Yeah, definitely. Let's do that. Like, maybe we can do some kind of casual chat, and then do some demo and talk about things that excite you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds great. Man, been a pleasure visiting with you, and I can't wait to share this with everyone so everyone else can see what you got cooking over there.
All right, Tim. Great talking to you. Thank you so much for doing this, and you have a great day.
Yes, sir. You too. Have a good day. Bye-bye.